business in 10 years then?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I didn't think we'd make it 10 years. So so
well, most businesses don't.
So no, that's
but
a
you're
great
living
question.
the dream. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You're creating your own schedule.
Right now, most of our presence is here in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. We've been very blessed to put together some great relationships from, I like to say, all the way from the coast to the mountains. Mm-hmm. A lot of people know who Wharton Gladden is, and we don't take that for granted whatsoever. In 10 years, I would like for us to have a similar presence in other communities. I think what we've been able to do here in North Carolina in terms of helping business owners, in terms of helping local communities, in terms of just creating opportunities for other people, I think we can do the same thing in other states. I've started to spend more time in Virginia and South Carolina and trying to learn more about those areas. So in 10 years, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say just how far we might have grown in 10 years, but I would love for us to be more of a regional firm mm-hmm. and have a greater presence throughout the Southeast. So.
Right, and so do you see your role evolving over time? I mean, so, you started, it was you staying up late at night, working through, trying to figure out what you want to do, implementing it, being a practitioner in your field. Do you see yourself getting in more to a scalable mode where you're more of a manager, not necessarily one actually doing the deals?
Yeah, I think every business should go through this sort of evolutionary process where you as the owner or the entrepreneur or whatever your position is, you sort of go from what I call working in the business to working on the business. Mm-hmm. And yeah, for the past decade or so, it's been me predominantly working in the business. I think moving forward, I'll be doing more working on the business. Mm-hmm. In other words, I'll be trying to identify people that I can coach, develop, mentor. In other words, create another me that can go out and find opportunities and work with clients and close deals and so forth. And it's a tough part of the business to be in because you are learning more about how to delegate. It's mm-hmm. not always me necessarily doing something as much as it's me finding people that have the ability and the talent to do it. And if you've been working in your business for so long, when you get to this particular point, sometimes it can be very difficult.
One thing that when you and I first met, we went through a fellowship program, and it was the first time I'd ever really studied or been forced to study specifically the idea that we all have strengths and weaknesses, and that we were much better off to focus on our strengths and going all in on our strengths and spending just a little bit of time on weaknesses versus we're always taught, well, if you're weak in this area, if you're weak in science, then you need to spend more time on science because you need to get your science grade up. But the truth is, if you're great in social studies, by the philosophy we were learning and adapting was you're better off to just go all in on social studies. How do you see you in your strengths, and how does that apply to your business?
Now see, I always knew this philosophy was true. Mm-hmm. And I would tell my girlfriend that there was a reason why I didn't need to focus on learning how to cook. Right. Because I'm not good at it, right?
Right.
And so if I'm great at picking restaurants.
She's like, you better clean.
If I'm great at picking restaurants, let me keep picking restaurants, right? Okay. But
he is good at that.
It is difficult. We all remember the story of Rudy, right? Everybody's seen that movie. And to some degree, like, that's the American dream, right? You have this great obstacle, and here's a guy who works 4 or 5 years in college and stays in the weight room and does all these things, and finally he gets to play in the last game of the season for maybe 10 seconds or something like that. And certainly you have a lot of people walking out of the theater with tears in their eyes after seeing a story like that. But then you step away from it and you say, man, look how much time that guy wasted over that 4 or 5 year period, where if he would have been more focused at what he's really, really good at, how much further could he have gotten along versus trying to mitigate for weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And, I'm in a unique position because Wharton Gladden being an investment banking firm, we don't really make anything. I don't make any widgets. We don't produce anything. The only thing I really do is work with other companies that actually produce goods and services. And so a lot of times I find myself when I'm working with a company, you're trying to help that company understand that sometimes you can't be all things to everybody. Mm-hmm. So you can't always convert your weaknesses into strengths. Sometimes you got to figure out what you're really, really good at and just keep hammering on that. I mean,
Right.
you take a company like Converse, they figured out how to make one really good shoe, and they did it really, really, really well, and they became a huge company. Southwest Airlines, same kind of concept.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's not, it's not about trying to be all things to everybody, but it's figuring out what you're really, really good at and just emphasizing that as hard as you can.